Thanks. First, I'd like to welcome each of you to the webinar and thank you for taking the time to learn more about the importance of physical education to our students' learning, behavior, and health. As the State Superintendent of Education, I co-chaired the Illinois Enhanced PE Task Force with the Director of the State Health Department, Dr. Lamar Hasbrook, for the past year. I have been particularly struck by the expanding base of neuroscience research that tells of the importance of including daily PE and physical activity in our schools to optimize student achievement and health. An overview of this neuroscience research will be provided today to help each of you better understand the relationship between PE, academic achievement, and health. The webinar will also provide information about practical steps schools and districts can take to improve the quality of physical education to achieve these outcomes. The Illinois Enhanced PE Task Force, a group of over 30 school, physical education, and health experts from across the state, has seriously considered the environment in which schools currently operate and is finalizing a set of recommendations for the State Board of Education, State Department of Public Health, Illinois General Assembly, and Governor Quinn on how to optimize PE in Illinois given our current context. Illinois has led the nation in valuing children's health, and we see physical education as a critical piece in this complex puzzle. We hope you take what you learned today to start discussions in your schools or districts. Join us for upcoming webinars in September and October highlighting the recommendations of the Illinois Enhanced PE Task Force, including suggested revisions to the learning standards for physical development and health. The State Board of Education is here to support you in your efforts to enhance PE and is happy to answer any questions you may have and provide you with technical assistance as you continually improve your PE and physical activity programs. Next, we'll hear from Enhanced PE Task Force member Jean Sophie, who is the Superintendent of the Lake Bluff Schools District 65 and representative of the Illinois Association of School Administrators. Jean?
Thank you, Dr. Cook. In this age of increasing accountability for our schools to have higher student achievement, meet the needs of diverse learners, utilize brain research, and do more with less under great financial constraints, it is very difficult for me to understand why the importance of physical activity and education in our schools has not been recognized for its importance. Established by Illinois Public Act 97-1102, the Enhanced PE Task Force work began last summer, and I have to admit I started as a very skeptical member. I felt very sincerely that I was at the table to help everybody understand the current reality of our schools at this point in time. One more item put on our plates could easily send the entire plate flying. And then I heard the same presentation that you are going to hear as part of this webinar, a presentation discussing the importance of connecting enhanced physical education, which can be defined as more rigorous activity through a daily schedule, to higher student achievement. There is now data to support this connection. So the presentation really got me to thinking. I have been in school districts with some resources, no resources, and plentiful resources. But all districts truly want to do what is best for their students. Do other district leaders know this important connection? Do they realize that there are a vast amount of resources to help support districts in this endeavor? Specifically, I began to realize that students become better learners when they have daily physical education. This helps students' memory, their cognitive performance, and their concentration levels. Even more interesting to me was when we talked about student behavior being more on task and less disruptive with daily physical education. I don't think the public truly understands that our children come to our schools every day bringing their home and social emotional baggage with them, which often results in disruptive behavior. The next issue I sorted through in my mind was the fact that while we all have daily physical education on paper, if a waiver doesn't exist, could we really be doing a disservice to students by not making it truly physical activity? Over the years, has recess and movement motion done by regular education teachers taken away the true rigorous physical activity that our students need on a daily basis to be successful? Daily physical activity can also be done with more fidelity than what it is being done now. I represent the thousands of educators in our state that truly can't add one more thing to their teaching load. But they can access readily available lessons and spend 5 to 10 minutes leading or co-leading activities that would benefit student achievement and student behavior. The selling moment for me was when I thought about how teachers can't teach everything we are accountable to teach now. How can we possibly add more? Well, that is when I decided that we cannot afford not to include enhanced physical education and activity in our schools on a daily basis. Furthermore, due to the very active participants on this committee, I have determined that there is a wealth of available free resources at the click of a button for our schools to use, again, free of charge. They need to be accessed and used. I am excited to start this next year of school in my own district where physical activity on a daily basis will be emphasized and discussed right along with Common Core. The research supports this. Jenna, if you can advance the slide presentation before we get into the core of this presentation, I just want to comment again. One of the wonderful sheets that is attached to the materials in this presentation is an enhanced PE fact sheet. Good to really look at. Our task force charge beginning last summer was really to promote and recommend enhanced PE programs. We recommended updates to the Illinois Learning Standards for Physical Development and Health. All of these will be presented in a report on August 2nd. Just waiting for the presentation to move forward. The goal of this committee was that all K-12 school students will participate in a daily, high-quality physical education in order to promote academic achievement and realize the lifetime benefits of exercise and fitness. Again, we realize that districts across the state do not have daily PE, but we can do more things to introduce that activity during the course of a school day at no cost. Moving into the next slide. Enhanced PE and adding more physical activity during the school day, as I said, improves learning, improves behavior, and learns health. So this is really something that we cannot afford not to look at. The particular slide in front of you is this enhanced PE fact sheet that I had mentioned, and it really highlights the 3 areas that are emphasized and promoted and actually reap the benefits of enhanced PE and school-based physical activity.
So our next speaker is Paul Zintarski, and he will be providing an overview today of the neuroscience research. So Paul, I'm going to advance the slide here, and you can go ahead and get started.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. I'm really excited to be part of this this webinar, and I've really stood in the back watching the work of the Enhanced PE Task Force, and they've done a wonderful job. My task is to explain some of the research that's been out there, explain some of the neuroscience as we move forward. Can we advance the next slide, please? So by the numbers, we now know that students are 2 times more likely to meet ISAT standards when they're fit as opposed to their the students who are not fit. We know that there's a 20% increase on-task behavior among those students who are most challenged in our class. Most phys ed activity classes currently in the 30-minute period only have about 11 minutes of moderate to vigorous movement. We also know that 1 in every 3 child in Illinois is obese and overweight. So here's a study coming out of Illinois State University, and we looked, and Dale Brown and Associates down there looked at students participating in the healthy fitness zone for PACER, or cardiovascular conditioning, and we see the likelihood of boys and girls achieving or exceeding ISAT standards when they are in the healthy zone for cardiovascular fitness. So thank you, Dale, for that particular study. This particular brain scan slide done by University of Illinois, Dr. Chuck Hillman, you're looking at a composite of 20 sixth grade students sitting down taking a test on the left-hand side. Prior to taking the test, they sat quietly, much like making the transition from a reading class to a mathematics class. On the right-hand side, it's the same 20 students sitting down taking the same test. The only difference is they preceded that test with a 20-minute walk. Now you see more brain activity. The brain is all lit up, a result of blood flow and oxygen to the brain and release of neurochemicals that I'm going to get into later. They scored 10% higher on the test after the walk than they did after sitting quietly. So what we're talking about is students coming out of an enhanced PE class on the right-hand side will be better learners. This is a particular study we've done at Naperville Central High School, where I was a department chairman for 26 years. And we took students who were struggling in class, and we put them in an extra reading class or an introduction to algebra class. And we compared them to students who had PE after their academic classes. So we made sure that the LRPE class, or as we call it, Learning Readiness PE class, preceded the classes by a period or two. So it was either in the morning or in the afternoon. And the next chart we'll talk about the class. We did much more cardiovascular conditioning. We made sure that we included teamwork, because again, those students were students who struggled, so they were disenfranchised with the school system. If we played any kind of sports games, it was all small-sided, 4 against 4 in soccer. Then we made sure that there was coordination between the academic teachers and the PE teachers. So if the teachers were giving a test, we may ramp up the cardiovascular conditioning that day in a PE class. So this is the study. This year we instituted this class in the morning, and you see the comparison of students who just got off the bus and went to first hour reading as opposed to those who went to a 0-hour PE class or PE class before school. It was a half a year more improvement in a semester in reading scores than those who just participated in the reading class. In 2006, we had two reading classes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So we started the day with a Learning Readiness PE class, and we put an academic reading class second hour, and we put one 8th hour. And the comparisons there shows that there's a disconnect from when they exercised to when they had the class. 2009, again, we kept data on students in the same academic reading class and compared them to students who had the LRPE class as opposed to students who had PE afterwards. In 2011, all of those previous studies were done at the end of the first semester. 2011, we did it at the end of a whole year of study. And you see that we've improved almost 3 grade levels of reading in the course of a year when students participated in PE. This was done with nationwide reading tests, the Nelson-Denning reading test. So we know we made comparisons on that level. In mathematics, in the next slide, we saw even greater results. And so the second year of the study, we created a 3rd-hour math class. So these are students who had first-hour LRPE. We compared them to students who had PE afterwards, and as opposed to students who had the LRPE class. And you see the difference there. 2007, we included more classes, so our data changed just a little bit. 2008, all students were put in an LRPE class prior to an introduction to algebra class. You see the results. 2009, students were given a choice. The difference between 2009 and 2007 results is we added another intervention, an online math intervention. So we know that that intervention, compared to 2006, 2007, gave an added boost, but we still had more success with the kids who proceeded in PE. 2010, we had an insignificant number of students who didn't participate in the PE, in the LRPE program, so we didn't keep that data. And again, 2011, you see the results. So always, the students who had PE just before their classes that they struggled in most had a significant boost. There's a definite correlation between fitness and brain activity. And again, this is brain slides from Dr. Chuck Hillman out of the University of Illinois. On the left-hand side, you're looking at higher fit students as they sit down to take an easy test. Where you see the brain lit up, that's them resolving the issues of the test. The lower fit students on the right-hand side, you see their brains are much cooler and not nearly as active. More importantly, when they sit down to take a hard test, like our ISAT tests, you see that the brains are all lit up on the higher fit students. The lower fit students can't even recruit enough brain power to resolve the issues of the test. So there it is in living color that shows that it works. Now there are studies all over, and this one came out of Dallas, where they tested 2.4 million students, and they found the two biggest factors in academic performance and school performance was cardiovascular conditioning and BMI. But you see that cardiovascular conditioning was far superior than the BMI. So we know that students in the healthy zone had better attendance in cardiovascular conditioning, had fewer disciplinary incidents, and again, we know this now from studies all over. There are a number of studies that indicate this is a contributing factor to our students participating well in school. Students then must, it's recommended by the Illinois Institute of Medicine and the CDC that students have 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per day. So that will improve students' muscular strength, endurance, flexibility, cardiovascular endurance, mental health. It will reduce their stress. It will help them maintain a healthy weight. As a result, there will be a reduction risk in cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and other chronic disease. The bottom line is return on investments. Kids who are less stressed and better behaved and are in school more and more attentive, we're going to do better in school, bottom line. And so it's not always about just obesity, because here we're looking at body mass index and quartiles. And if you look at the far right, those students in the higher area in terms of body mass index, even if they have vigorous exercise at least one day a week, more preferably, they're at a lower risk for type 2 diabetes. And those are health risks that we have to be aware of, and we have to make our communities and our students aware of as well. Next slide. This gentleman, Dr. John Rady, came to visit our school program in 2004, and so the quote he has at the bottom, exercise like fertilizer to the brain, is so good it's like Miracle-Gro. Advance to the next slide, please. So I'm going to try and explain the neuroscience behind a statement like that, and so why all of this shows that students do better academically as a result of exercise. Next slide, please. I'm going to explain brain chemistry. Here's a brain cell, has a nucleus and dendrites. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the nucleus and connected are dendrites and axons. Well, the brain cells don't touch each other. There's a gap. If you look up at the top, there's a gap between brain cells, and that gap is what we call the brain synapses. And information must flow back and forth between those gaps in our brain cells. What controls that flow of information are neurotransmitters. Next slide, please. And it's these neurotransmitters that control that flow of information. I believe this next slide does the best explanation of neuroscience than anything else. And so when you exercise, you get explosion of these three chemicals in your brain: dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. And dopamine is that opiate. It's that reward, pleasure, motivation, and drive. Serotonin helps us deal with obsessions, compulsions, and memory. Again, these are things we have to be concerned about with our students. Norepinephrine helps us deal with alertness, concentration, and energy. Now, these chemicals don't sit in isolation. They have a tendency to mix and match. When you combine dopamine with serotonin, you're effectively helping appetite, sex, and aggression. The best way to explain that is, generally after a hard workout, you're not hungry. It's several hours or an hour later that the calorie burn sets in. When you mix serotonin and norepinephrine together, you're dealing with anxiety, impulse, and irritability. In the pharmaceutical world, that's Xanax and Prozac, and we really don't need it as long as we're exercising properly. Occasionally, you get in a deep state of depression because of mitigating factors, but for the most part, you can handle the stress of the day with good exercise. The combination of dopamine and norepinephrine helps us deal with attention, and in the pharmaceutical world, that's nothing more than Adderall and Ritalin. And so we have all of these students now sitting in our class that are zoned out and they're like zombies because they're on those medications, and again, they don't need it. More importantly, when you take all three of these chemicals and you mix them together, what you're doing is you're affecting mood and cognitive function. Those things that we as educators need to be aware of with our students in schools. Next slide, please. So here's what we know about the benefits of physical activity: PE, recess, and classroom-based physical activity. We know that because of the release of those chemicals, we're going to affect attention, concentration, self-esteem, creativity, perception of academic or intellectual competence. It's those students who have struggled in school now all of a sudden get a good self-concept about themselves, and they know that they can perform well. We take care of impulse control. They feel better. There's better visual spatial skills. Working memory is improved. As a result, then, academic conduct is better, on-task behavior is better, attendance is better, and so the bottom line is better achievement on test scores, grades, and grade point average. And because we have daily PE in our programs, as Gene indicated, there really isn't any more expense as long as we have a quality daily PE program going on. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Paul. And we'll be taking questions and answers at the end of the webinar, so if you can just hold on to your questions, we'll address those in the final minutes. Our next speaker is Sandy Noel. She's a physical educator and a member of the Enhanced PE Task Force, and she'll be talking about some practical ways you can increase your moderate to vigorous physical activity in your PE classes. So Sandy?
Thank you, Jana. I'd like everybody to just take a moment and think about what your PE experiences were. And if we could go to the next slide. I wonder if your PE experiences were like mine, the outdated ones. Did you wait for turns working on skills? Did you wait to be picked for a team? Were you in a large group? When you were on a team, did you wait for your turn to get in and play? Were you compared to other students or to national norms? And was everything directed by your teacher, including warm-ups, so that maybe if you needed to do 25 jumping jacks and someone did 26, you started all over again? That would be the outdated PE experience. I wonder if any of you had to climb a rope in front of the whole class. Well, enhanced PE is much more brain-centered, and it really goes along with the neuroscience. We want to increase the amount of time that kids are moving. And yes, we are still working on skills and physical competence, but we want to have the students understand the benefits of playing and getting active by participating in fitness activities and games, outdoor education, integrate the lessons with science, math, maybe learn about the circulatory system by following the Heart Adventure obstacle course, as they are getting their heart rate up and learning about the brain-body connection. As Paul said, instead of large groups We have small groups playing so that everybody is playing. There's more opportunity for practice and participation, and we don't eliminate children during games. All students, skill level notwithstanding, have an opportunity for success. That's what differentiation is all about. We are health related. We are going to talk about the importance of muscular endurance, strength, and flexibility, but the students are not going to be compared to national norms. They will take tests in the beginning to see how their fitness is, set goals, and then compare their own individual scores rather than them comparing to someone else. Teaching, we are facilitators of learning. We help the children goal set, we help them learn to overcome obstacles, and we help them stay active so that everybody is having more fun, including the teacher. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to get the children more active during PE class and get that heart rate up? Well, we're going to give clear and concise instructions, and we are going to demonstrate proper form for different activities. We're going to develop a plan for taking out and returning equipment. We're going to give the students responsibility for that. We're going to minimize transition times for starting and stopping. Music works very well. Children play the game when the music is going. When it stops, they know to stop and look at the teacher. We can create games and circuits using minimal amounts of equipment and donated equipment. Tag games really require no additional equipment. The children are tagged, they perform a movement, or someone saves them and they perform movements together. They're saved and running again. We can modify the games by changing rules, and as Paul said again, creating small groups and small-sided activities. 4-on-4 soccer, basketball where we're having a round robin in a circuit. We can have small-sided volleyball games, and we can even modify the equipment using balloons, beach balls, punch balls. Now, how do we get everybody involved? Remember musical chairs where there's one winner and we're fighting over each other to get that last chair? Well, we can change that to musical hoops where we're taking away the hoops, the children are moving to music, but when the music stops, they need to start sharing the hoops, and we can even work on body parts. Put your toe in as you share a hoop until everyone is working together. So we're working on cooperation, collaboration, and social emotional skills. Kickball, instead of waiting for turns, it becomes 5-a-day kickball, where we have 5 balls. Children take turns kicking the ball, and they're going in order, while the fielders are putting the balls back in for the pitcher. So everybody's moving, and oh, a little variation. If the 5 balls are in before the last runner gets to the safe place, the fielding team gets a point. Kaleidoscope soccer is 4-on-4 with 4 different goals, and the teams are running around trying to get goals in all the other teams' goals. Relays. This changed my life. Relays used to be teams, everybody takes one turn, they sit, somebody's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and in my classes, the children really were fighting about who was first, who was second, were you sitting with your legs crossed before the others. A new way of doing relays. You give the teams an amount of time, and you count the turns and get a class score for total number of turns. You give them that same amount of time, and they have to beat their number. So now you're team building, you're challenging, you're goal setting, and yet you're working together. Calories in, calories out teaches nutrition, and in that, children go pick up a food card, bring it back to the group, and depending on the number of calories, the group has to do X number of activities. So there are many ways of increasing MVPA and having a lot of fun as we're doing it.
Great, thank you, Sandy. And we just had a question asking, are there any manuals with a collection of enhanced PE activities? And Sandy here is just working with us to wrap up and finalize a manual that will be available hopefully in early August. It'll be free with all sorts of these activities that she's described that you can use in your PE classes. So we will be distributing that in August. So April Hart is a principal at the Unity Point Elementary School just outside of Carbondale, and she'll be talking today about what her school has done and how you can help enhance PE at your school. So April?
Good morning. We've heard a lot of reasons about why enhanced PE is so important for our students in our school. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how this can be accomplished at the building level. Obviously, any type of change, it requires an investment. One of the very first things I would like to talk to you about is leadership, which does not necessarily have to be administration. However, you do want your administration to be on board with this enhanced PE change, simply because it may take changes in time within your schedule and additional money or different way of allocating your money within your budget for training, equipment, facilities, that type of thing. But as the last thing says on this slide, you don't necessarily need high dollar approaches to get this done. If you want to go ahead and advance the slide. Some of the things I will address very briefly are some hurdles that we've had to face. Staffing and professional development is number one. Your space and your facilities, your equipment, the scheduling. How are you going to provide PE daily, but not only daily, but multiple times throughout your day perhaps, and any type of curricular changes that you might need to make. Now these are challenges, but they can be overcome. And one of the things that I wanted to note here is you don't necessarily need more of any of these things. You might not necessarily need anything different than you already have. The question becomes, what can we do differently with what we currently have? On the next slide, you'll see some of the things that we've done here at Unity Point to answer that question. And one of the very first things that we did was we established a wellness committee at our school. We wanted to ensure that we had a comprehensive, coordinated approach to everything that we did related not only to PE, but to overall health and wellness in our building. And you can see examples of those people who are on this committee. We meet on a monthly basis. We have an agenda. We provide minutes to not only those who attend the meeting, but to our entire faculty and staff and our board. And as a result, what we have done is we've provided regular events for parents and families. Again, this is a comprehensive, coordinated approach. So it goes beyond for us just what's happening in the PE classrooms, but what's happening on the playgrounds, what's happening in the cafeteria, what is happening in our classrooms, and how we are trying to influence what's happening at home as well. So by establishing this wellness committee, what we've been able to do is focus on a shift in our approach and our philosophy, not adding a program. We have not added a program. We have just simply shifted our approach to what we were currently doing. And in order to address some of the financial and scheduling concerns that we have developed a few partnerships with agencies and businesses in our community. Now, we are a rural area, and we have very few businesses and corporations that we can tap into in our community. So what we have done is we have reached out to our county health department, who has become an extremely valuable partner for us in this change. And the businesses that we've pretty much reached out to that we've developed partnerships with are those health agencies, our healthcare agencies, our physicians who have an interest in this as well. And here is something that I think as administration we sometimes forget, and that is professional development for our faculty and staff. We have chosen to make a better use of our monthly faculty meetings. As an administrator, I can send out emails and memos about dates and important items to remember. We use our faculty meetings here on a monthly basis as trainings and as in-services. And our staff and our faculty teach and in-service our staff and faculty. And we have a very strong in-house professional development program. So we have our PE and our health faculty and staff in servicing the rest of our faculty and staff on some of the very important things that you've heard today. And we've made use within our scheduling for common planning, so that we can focus on common goals and a common way of talking with our kids so that they hear the same vocabulary as they grow in our building. So those are the things that we've done here at Unity Point, and I can take questions at the end for more information.
Great, thank you, April. And finally here, we'll give the microphone back to Jean Sophie, who can wrap up the webinar and lead us into the Q&A session. So Jean, would you like to go ahead and?
I will. As we move forward, there's a couple items that I would like to emphasize. There are a vast amount of resources available, as has been noted throughout. So there's some things that you may want to consider knowing there are resources available. You might want to develop some kind of wellness council or committee in your district to really look at what enhanced PE can do and how you might do that. You might want to have a focus on at a school board meeting on discussing wellness and actually the benefits of enhanced PE. You might want to provide a list of suggestions for increasing this time. Actually, during the course of our committee meetings, Sandy Noel was great enough to show us examples that we all participated in that got us up and got us moving, that was rigorous activity, and I know myself I felt much better after we got up and moved around. Your PE and wellness teachers in Lake Bluff, they are a vast amount of resources for me, and I think as school districts we have to rely more on our PE staff to bring the professional development to their team members and talk about the benefits to our other staff members. And of course, any budget support that we can give this is also great. Moving on to the next slide. The resources we keep talking about can be found on all these different websites. We will continue to put resources out and make them available for school districts and for teachers. I know in reviewing most of these, there is also a vast amount of resources for parents on many of the parent websites, and the public health websites also detail many parent resources. So it's possible to align all of your constituents in a community towards one end goal.
So the first question we have here, it says, are there any planned enhanced PE training opportunities or resources related to full inclusion of students of all ability levels, including children with physical disabilities? So would any of our speakers from the Enhanced PE Task Force like to comment on that?
I would like to comment. IAFERD has a convention in November, and we will be presenting enhanced PE, and we will also be presenting information about the manual that is coming out and the Walk Across Illinois School Fitness Curriculum. So if you can get some information from IAFERD about the conference and look up the Walk Across Illinois, you will get a lot of information about enhanced PE.
Any other speakers want to address that? The Promoting Enhanced PE Task Force Committee is also creating an action plan for ensuring that students with disabilities are included, and so there probably will be resources coming soon if there aren't already. Someone asked, is there a website for PE grants or for PE equipment?
There are grants available through IAFERD and AFERD, and if you go on those websites, you can find information on how to apply. Also, different districts, like the Northeastern District in Illinois for IAFERD, gives 2 $500 grants for equipment every single year. So that information is on both of those websites.
Jenna?
Yes?
And this is April.
Hi.
One of the things that we found as far as grants and funding were concerned is when we contacted those agencies that I was referring to earlier, They write grants a lot, and a requirement of those grants is to have a community partner that includes children. So what we've done is we've put our name out as being a willing stakeholder or willing partner when they are writing their grants. So we find that they contact us on a regular basis asking us if we would be willing to participate.
Oh, another grant source is Action for Healthy Kids, and if you go on their website, you can get information about their grants as well.
Great. And going back to the prior comment, it looks like Jean Sophie was not unmuted, but she mentioned that there are many professionals on the Enhanced PE Task Force who were committed to making sure that their materials were available for students with disabilities. So that was an emphasis of the task force. Someone else has asked if it's possible to get a copy of the PowerPoint. There is a PDF version of this PowerPoint included in the Materials tab of the webinar, and we can also send materials after the fact to everyone who has attended today. Are there any other questions? There is an Enhanced PE Task Force website with many resources included as links, including a resource guide that was developed specifically for the task force. And through that, you can find information on professional development, curriculum, and all sorts of items related to Enhanced PE. And that website is, again, listed on the webinar slideshow.
I've unmuted you.
Someone has asked.
But Jana, I think you might need to mute yourself while Jean is talking because of the feedback.
Okay.
One of the other questions that I saw was, were aquatics going to be included in all of this? I have to share, as a former swim team parent of 20 years, we did not specifically talk about aquatics, but I'm sure that it's within the materials.
Great. And there's another question. Oh, I think we have to mute Jean here. When are we going to receive help with being observed with the new Illinois state requirements? So I'm not sure if Dr. Cook wants to address that question specifically.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. She says, when are we going to receive help with being observed with the new Illinois state requirements?
Oh, so if you're talking about the learning revised standards, revising the learning standards, so those will go before the state board and will have to go before the Joint Committee for Administrative Rulemaking as part of our procedures. So as soon as they're finalized, our board would be able to take those up that subsequent month, and then there's a 60-day period in which the Joint Committee for Administrative Rulemaking would be deliberating. Well, there's deliberation and public comment, and then they go to JCAR, and they would then be filed with the Secretary of State. So that would be the process. So there would probably be a 90-day period from when they're finalized to when we would be able to get them in the state regulations.
Great, thank you. There's another question. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we would have those available for the 15-16 school year.
Great. Another question, how can I get the information for the next webinar to my PE department? So again, in the materials tab, there is a flyer for the August 5th replay of this webinar. And once we finalize the dates for September and October, we will be sure to include the flyer for those dates to everyone who has attended this webinar. We'll make sure that everyone gets it so you can pass it on to others that you know. Are there any other questions? Here's a question. What can university professors do to facilitate the Enhanced PE Task Force and method courses?
I think with Pete, it's really important to get this information to the university professors. And I know that there is an organization in Chicago, and I know that Karen Putra, professor at Concordia University, is on this. And so we will give this information to her to share with all the university professors.
Someone asked, are there any suggestions on how to get other staff to collaborate for Enhanced PE? I'm not sure if April wants to address that or Jean.
I think it's very important that we involve our PE and wellness teachers to show some of the presentation today, to let teachers know how important this rigorous activity is, and then also have our PE teachers really help our regular ed teachers in deciding on scheduling and incorporation of some of these activities within their own time period. And I know that we're starting on that here, and we're starting right away on the first Institute Day with some of our PE and wellness teachers starting those discussions here. I also wanted to comment that on what can we do with our university professors. University professors have to really start letting our future teachers understand this important connection between rigorous activity and student achievement. So probably highlighting more brain research and that connection would help all future incoming teachers.
And Paul,
I'd like to hello, this is Paul. I'd like to just make this statement about getting other teachers involved. I think you need to find a true champion in your building, whether it's a grade level teacher or a particular subject teacher at the high school level, for example, and partner with them, and then figure out a way to collect true data, because data is what drives decisions. And the bottom line is the neuroscience works. So if you can pair yourself with another academic teacher or a grade level teacher and make comparisons to other grade level teachers or you know, those other academic teachers, then you have the data that's going to substantiate how the need for enhanced PE. You need that champion at the academic level.
great, thank you, Paul. Someone has asked, are we introducing the Enhanced PE Task Force before revising the Physical Development and Health Standards? I'm not quite sure if you mean introducing, to whom you mean we want to introduce the task force, but the task force has been working hard for the last 8 or 9 months to do the revisions, and it's all publicly available information on the Enhanced PE website if you would like to see the agenda and the notes from each of those meetings. We do have a couple additional questions. We just have a couple minutes left here. Will this presentation be archived so we can show it to others? Yes, and as soon as that link is available, we will go ahead and send it out to everybody. Someone else has said that Dale Brown at ISU is on the cutting edge of this topic, and he is a problem solver and is a wealth of knowledge for anyone who would like to contact him. And Dale wrote back that physical education teacher technology training is in its 9th year at Illinois State University. K through 12 teachers and university professors are always invited. So now we are going to go ahead and move into our Q&A session. We have with us Sandy Noel, who was presenting on the webinar. We also have Mrs. Sean Bax from the Illinois State Board of Education, who can speak on behalf of ISB. And Kobe Jansen-Austin and myself, Janice Simon, can also speak to some of the work of the Illinois Enhanced PE Task Force as support staff. So we will open up to questions. You can use the raise hand option, or you can chat your question, or you can type your question into the chat box. So Gary, it looks like you might have a question. I have now unmuted you. Gary, do you have a question? Gary Albert?
No, I do not have a question.
Oh, okay. I will go to raise your hand.
Thank you.
Do others have any questions for the speakers or presenters? Give everyone a moment here. All right, so we have our first question. Someone asked, how is rigorous physical activity defined in terms of FIT? F-I-T-T.
Well, frequency, intensity, time type, is that what you are talking about? What you need for frequency is we need to do aerobics at least 4 times a week. We need to get our heart rate up to a moderate to vigorous rate. Strength training You're not going to do that every day. You're going to do that every few days. And we want to do stretching every day. So I'm not sure if that is what your question is, but we need to do aerobics, we need to do muscle endurance, muscle strengthening, and flexibility during our PE classes during the week.
And how is rigorous physical activity defined?
Well, you would be getting your heart rate up to moderate to vigorous, and it would be, actually I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but it would really be dependent on the age, and there are charts for that.
Great. Now we have another question here. It says, what types of support and resources should we expect to see from the state? So Sean, I have unmuted you if you would like to answer that question. John? Well, it looks like Sean might not quite be on the call. We do know that the Illinois Enhanced PE Task Force had made, oh, hi Sean. Sean, the question was, what kind of resources and support can folks expect from the state as Enhanced PE is implemented? Sean, we don't seem to be able to hear you if you're speaking. I don't know if you're on mute. Let me try it. Sean, can you try one more time? Well, sorry about that. So, Sean, we're not able to hear her at the moment. If you're able to speak up, Sean, I'll leave you unmuted so you can type in if you are able to. So the Enhanced PE Task Force has recommended and is co-chaired by the Illinois State Board of Education with Dr. Cook as the co-chair. And they have several resources that are being developed by the task force and are sharing other resources that already exist. And I know they're planning on circulating a lot of these professional development resources throughout the state as folks want to enhance their physical education. So there are many resources on the Illinois Enhanced PE Task Force website that are currently posted if you want to start there. And as this is implemented over time, ISB will also be providing additional information and professional development resources and opportunities via their communications and website. So Sean, I'm not sure why we're not able to hear you. We have you unmuted on our end, so we apologize for that technical difficulty. Other questions we have says, is the chart indicating heart rate numbers in the resources?
It is not currently in the resources, but I think we should probably put it in the resources.
Great. And then someone else asked, does Enhanced PE still want us to do the presidential challenge?
We would love to see that presidential challenge done, and you know that that is now combined with FitnessGram. And it would be our hope that eventually we could use that as a resource. Absolutely.
Great. Another question is, how can we utilize Enhanced PE to show growth in students, which will relate to evaluation and teacher ratings? I don't know, Sandy, if you want to give that a...
I think that there needs to be more research done like it has been done in California and other states, so that the research coming out of California shows FitnessGram results, and it also shows that in regard to state testing. And it really, as Paul knows, that with aerobic and sit-ups mostly, those really correlate with academic performance. And as of now, we don't have that research in Illinois, but it is out in the country, fitness and academic performance.
And this is, Jana, something else the Enhanced PE Task Force has talked about is that they want to recommend that schools who are using Enhanced PE start to do some of the research and linking, taking your Enhanced PE results, perhaps your presidential challenge or FitnessGram results, and linking those to your academic performance over time or behavioral problems, trips to the principal's office, et cetera, and begin to track that and share that with the state so that the state can see some of the links that are being made at local levels. So that's something that the Enhanced PE Task Force has talked about as well. Are there any other questions? I think I've gone through the ones that have been put into the chat box. Is there anyone else on the call who'd like to speak up? You can raise your hand. Well, pending no other questions, I think that wraps up today's webinar. We thank you for participating. We will be sending out all of these materials to you via email afterwards, and you can also submit your CPDU form. We look forward to having you on the September 17th webinar for the next set, for the hearing about the recommendations of the Enhanced PE Task Force. And we hope you can spread the word and send the link out to others. Thank you again. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Sandy for being here for questions today, and for Sean for trying, even though we had some technical glitch with the sound. So thank you again, and take care. Bye-bye.